Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. My name's ThaTimster, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking about interaction between a player and an object. So right here I have a list of different interaction types. I've sort of listed the main three I could think of. Type 1 is just simple. It's when the player is looking at an object or close to it and presses a button, and then an action happens or something spawns in. For example, a door opens, or maybe when you press a button a chest opens, and yeah, very simple and is just sort of one-off usually. Then we have interaction type 2, which is a lot more complex, and this sort of uses the inventory system, which again is very complex. So for example, say you use interaction type 1 to open a chest and then you want to collect the items inside it. So say if you have like an RPG style game where possibly there's like a sword and a bow and arrow and maybe some gold in this chest, then your player could pick it up. So again, your player might need to be looking at it or within a certain distance and pressing a button. Then after that, the object would have to be ended, obviously, and then changed or almost converted into a property. So the game itself will have to replace that object for a property, which then can be put in an inventory. So it might just be a property for a certain sword, and once you pick that up, that property gets changed to true from false, and there you go, there you have that sword. That's sort of stage 1. After that though, if the player selects the object, so maybe through a menu or maybe presses another button, then the property has to, if it's on a certain value, it has to respawn in that object, and then so that can be used. And if the player changes or unequips the object, possibly exchanges it for a better one, then the object is changed back to a property and stored in the inventory. Say if you have though like maybe gold or potions or maybe something like that, then it would be converted from an object to a property. So say if you have you get out of your inventory a potion and then you press whatever button to drink it, and your health bar will go up, and that will be caused by one property saying being on true, which is possibly, for example, just called potion, and when that's true it adds say 50 health to your current health bar. That's interaction type 2. So then we have the last type of interaction here, interaction type 3. This is for, say, if you have a car or a helicopter and you wanted to make a game where you can just run up to this vehicle and you can press a button and you get in, and then suddenly you have all the controls of that one vehicle. But you can also press a button again and your player will reappear and you'll have your original controls again. So basically we have our main trigger here. When that happens, the player camera changes, the player controls change, and the original player mesh and collisions are usually moved or completely removed. Then if the player is, say, in the vehicle and then presses a certain button, maybe just E to get out of the vehicle, then again the player's camera is changed, the player controls are put back to normal, and it also will have to spawn in a player mesh and collisions to replace what was there before. So 3 different types of interaction, and they all are very different and very complex. Today we'll just be covering interaction type 1. So right here I have a example, and if we look around we have our player here. You can walk up to the store, and when you get close enough it comes up with a text prompt. If you move away it becomes invisible, and then when you move close enough it becomes visible. once you press that button, an animation plays and the text disappears, and also all the sensors around it disappear as well. That's what we will be making today, a moving door. I'm pretty sure you can easily replace this for, say, maybe a chest or a button. Yeah, this is fairly easy to do. So the method I'm using here is a collision sensor at the bottom, and when it collides with the player's feet, then it sends signals to this text here, and basically just telling it whether it should be visible or not, depending on whether the player is colliding with this, which is just set to sensor. And yeah, then this is just acting as a collision to stop the player running through the door, and there we go. So, and basically once the player presses a button while he's inside the collision bounds, then basically the collision bounds get ended, as it says down here, door collision gets ended, and the text also gets ended, and then the door plays its animation just like this, and then it stays open, of course. If you wanted closing doors, you'd probably want to possibly have sensors like this on both sides and just have other animations going, but usually for most sort of RPG style games, once you've explored a room, the door sort of stays open. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a new blend file, file new, then just the same old, so blend game, GLSL, and frame rate 260. There we go. Now compress X, delete the cube, Shift A, and I'm just going to quickly turn that on, Shift A, and we're going to add ourselves a plane, and then press S and make it nice and big like that, maybe a little bit bigger, just something like that. In the description will be a FPS template. Then once you've found that file, click into it. Well, first of all, Shift F1, then find your file, click into it, select object, and then we want to have body, then hold down Shift, select camera, feet, and head, so those four. Then click link and append, and there we go, we should have our own FPS setup done. So the nice thing about this is it has sprinting in it as well, so that's, I guess, fairly handy. Now we can select our old camera here, press X and delete, because we have one right here. Then to activate it, if you notice this part isn't coloured in, we just press 0 on the numpad, and now that camera is the active camera. So next thing we're going to do is change our light here to Hemi. So now if we go into texture mode, it should be very bright. You can turn that down a bit if you want. And we're just going to move that out of the way over here. Now we're going to add our door, so click on our bottom cube here of the player, so the feet, and we're going to move them backwards just so they're out of the way. Then we're going to press Shift A and add a cube, GZ, on the Z axis, or you can just drag it if you'd rather. Then SX, scale it on the X axis, SY, and SZ. And again, you can use this little tool down here to do your scaling if you prefer. I just like hotkeys a little bit better. So once you have a nice door shape like that, then we can go ahead and call it door for a start. Then we can give it a new material, so click on the materials tab. So click on the materials tab here and then click new, and scroll down, turn specular off, because we don't want it to be shiny, no back facing. And now we just need a texture, so go along to the texture tab here, click new, image or movie, UV, and the color selected. Then we're going to click open, and we need a texture, so go to cgtextures.com. Hopefully you already know of this website, very handy. Then we're going to go along the top here to doors, and just wooden doors will be fine. And I don't know, you can have new doors if you want, or old ones. I guess we'll go for new, look a bit nicer. And you want a, I don't know, I guess you could use anything really. This one looks interesting, so find a door you like, then click on it, and if you're logged in, that should download automatically. Then back into Blender, we can click open, make sure that's finished, and then go to your downloads, and if we go down here, there we go, there's our file. And now if we are in text mode, if we now press 5 on the numpad and 3, then we can press tab, U, project from view bounds. That will get the whole image in, which won't look too nice, but we'll just have to muck around with that. So put your cursor in the top corner and drag, then down here change it to UV image editor, and select doors, and just adjust it, so SX, and we're just scaling. You can move the individual vertices if you like, but I just like having everything selected and scaling it accordingly. So moving it around, just GX and SX at the moment, and then to squash it down vertically, I'm going to press SY, and there we go. So I'm happy with something like that. We've got a bit of white on the side here, so I'm going to box select by pressing B and dragging, and just squash it all in like this. So once you're happy with your door, obviously it could be a lot better quality, but I guess it'll do. We're going to add our sensors, so you can squash that window back in again to make one big one. Then we're going to press T to get rid of this toolbar and move it back a bit. Then we're going to press Shift A and we're going to add a cube. Now this is going to be the sort of door collision, so just call it door collision. And this just stops the player from running through the door if they decide to try sprint through it, because yeah, the Blender physics aren't too great unless you put them on the highest settings, but that sort of affects performance. So we're just going to scale it until it's the same height as the door. So if we, oh, it's obviously way too high. So I'm just SZ and just adjusting it, and we want to, if you can, slightly more on the side towards the player than on the back side, because that's the side the player's going to be running into, so it needs more sort of collision space. Anyway, then we're going to scroll along the top here, select actor and collision bound box. You can drag up the margin if you want to. I'm just going to leave it. We also need it to be set to invisible. Then we're going to press Shift S, cursor to selected, so that one there. Then Shift A and add a cube. This is going to be our sort of foot sensor. So we're going to press S, Shift Z to scale along both axes that aren't the Z axes. So, and then we're just going to drag it into the cube just a bit, and then SY and scale it out like that. There you go. Then we're going to select actor and collision bounds, but instead of static, it's going to be a sensor. So it's going to detect actors and it's going to be invisible as well. So I think that is the main setup done. Now we just need to add some text. So Shift A, making sure your cursor is still there. We're going to add some text. So GX and move it a bit. So if you add a text object and you press tab, then you can edit it but we can't really see it, so we're going to press Z to go into wireframe, and then press tab again. And now we're just going to type something like press E to open. There we go, somehow that. Then we're going to press RZ90, RZ180, and just spin it around till it's the right way around. Then we're going to press S, make it smaller, and press RY -90. There we go. So we want to align it somewhere in the middle. Press S, and you don't want to make it too big, so rather a little bit too small than too big, because the player will be fairly close when they're reading it. Again, you want to drag this back and just inside the sensor itself, so just in front of the door. And I think that's about it. So we can select our text here, press Alt-C, mesh from curve / text. Then we're going to give that a new material, turn off the specular, turn off back facing, and select shadeless, and give it whatever color you want. Somehow that should work. And go into texture view, press 0, numpad 0, and then press B, and then you should see something like this. So now we need to get into the logic bricks, so click up here, change it to game logic. First thing we're going to do is select our sensor here, which we need to call door sensor. Select the sensor and add a collision, and when it collides with the property player on true. So first of all we need to select our player cube here, give it a game property called player. So this is for the sensor to detect. On this side, we first of all don't need this, so we can press H to hide it. Then we can select our text here, hold down Shift, select the sensor, add 2 visibility sensors, or actuators, one of them off, one of them on, then add an AND and a NAND controller, join the 2 up, like so, and there we go, that should be working. Also, we need to do one more thing, and that is give the door an animation. So first thing we need to do is down here, drag up and make a new window, change it to timeline, frame 0. Then we're going to press tab to go into edit mode, press A to deselect, B to box select, select the 4 vertices on the left hand side, and press Shift S, cursor to selected, and press tab to go out of edit mode. And we can press T to open up the toolbar and click origin to 3D cursor. We're going to press T again to get rid of the toolbar. And now if we go to frame 0 down here and then press I, insert rotation, and then go to frame 60 and then press R, Z90. So it's open. If you want to open even more, I guess you could turn it to the full extent. Once you're happy with the final rotation, you can just press I and insert rotation. So now it opens all the way like that. Then we're going to add, with the door selected, we're going to add an action. It's going to be called door action, and it's going to end at frame 60, just like down here. Then we're going to hold down Shift, select our sensor, and we're going to add a keyboard. And this is going to be the whichever key you want the player to open the door with. So in this case it's E. So we're going to select our sensor with the keyboard sensor, and we're going to click in there and press E. Add an AND actuator and join that up with the collision. So when the player presses E and it's colliding with this box here, then we can hold down Shift and select our door and join that up with the door action. So that should play the animation for the door. So now we just have our sensors all in the way. So once that has happened, so once the player has pressed the keyboard, then we also want to end all the objects except for the door. So we're going to click Actuator, press E, and that will add an edit object automatically, and select End Object and join that up. Then add another one here, End Object, and join that up. And now we just need one more, and that's for the door collision. So if we press Alt H to unhide, then select our door collision, we can add a edit object, end object, and hold down Shift, select our sensor, and join that up to our end object. So now if we press numpad 0 and press P, we have our text there the whole time, which isn't good. So we're going to press Z and select or escape to get out of the game, then press Z to go into wireframe, select this text here, and under collision or under physics select invisible, and go back into texture view, press P, there we go, there's our sort of mystery door. If we get close enough to it, we have our prompt, which is a bit high, so I'm going to move it down a bit. And I'm also going to make this a bit wider. I'm going to try that again. So now if we walk up to it, here we go, there's our prompt, press E to open. If we walk away, text disappears. If we try to run through it, it doesn't work. If we press E, our text disappears, our animation plays, which was pretty fast, and all our sensors will have disappeared as well. So the advantage of this sort of collision system is, for one, it's a little bit more computer friendly, but also you can go ahead like this, press B to box select this whole system, and then you can press Shift D, G, Y to duplicate, and there you go, there's a second door. Now if we go into texture view, press 0 and press P, you have two doors here. If you go up to this one, open it, that's fine. The other one is completely unaffected, and exactly the same thing happens for this one. They both sort of work independently, which is pretty handy. There you go, guys. There's part 1 of the interaction series. This was definitely the most simple one, so you can sort of expect the tutorials to be getting a lot more complex. Hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Feel free to leave a like or share with any friends you think might find it helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.